Well, good morning, and thank you all for attending. Thank you, Justice Stratton, for your friendship and your leadership. Our first panel today is Service Behind Bars, the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. Our panelists this morning are Brian Boyrith, the Regional Reentry Administrator from the Office of Reentry for the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. He has been active over the past 18 years with veterans population and is serving time in the department. Myra Jenkins is from the Healthcare for Reentry Veterans. She is a specialist for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Based out of Northeast Ohio Healthcare System in Cleveland. She has been employed by the VA since 2008, and she came there from Case Western Reserve. She is a licensed independent social worker, and she is a supervisor for the state of Ohio. They are joined by Gina Kikos, did I say it right? Kisos, I apologize, a VA Healthcare for Reentry Services specialist out of Dayton. Gina earned her BA in sociology from Anderson University and an MSW in mental health from the University of Michigan. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Well, good morning, everybody. I know this is difficult because it's kind of after COVID and we're not quite used to being out in public with each other, but thank you for being here. Thank you for bearing with the weather and the traffic. It is important that we're here talking about veterans. So it's a pleasure for me to work with Maya and Gina. I see some familiar faces out there, but also see some faces I do not know. So thank you for allowing Gina, Maya, and myself to give you a glimpse into a population of veterans that sometimes is forgotten about. As we go through today, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the Office of Reentry, which is what I'm a part of. We're going to talk about incarcerated, give you some numbers, give you a picture of what the veteran looks like inside our walls. We're going to talk a little bit about service programs and support systems for those veterans entering the criminal justice system. We're going to let Maya and Gina talk about some release planning that's specific to and for the veterans. And then we're going to talk, we're going to have a video that's going to show you a pretty good glimpse, a picture of what collaboration's about and what we try and do in the department with all of our community partners, especially the VA, because we couldn't do it without these two, and then we have 4 total. I think we have a couple that are out in the audience. Thank you for what you do. Why am I starting off by talking about the Office of Reentry and the Department of Rehab and Corrections? We have an obligation to our community, to our taxpayers, to our families, our customers, the incarcerated and their family, to educate at events like this of what reentry is. Many of you have heard the word and the term reentry, and it might mean something completely different for you. But what it means for us is that we have an obligation to educate everybody in the community any chance we get on what reentry means to our department. So as we look at it, the Office of Reentry and its initial plan is to make sure that we work with communities to come up with some kind of plan or have a plan that deals with returning citizens. Communities have to know who's coming back and what they need, and of course have a plan on have a plan on how they're going to accomplish that. I mean, think about it. We have a population of 43,000, which is still a lot. Do we truly know what each one of them needs that's being released? We do not. We hope, we understand what they need, but a lot of times we depend on people like you that are out there providing the services. So as we operate with communities to try and develop a reentry plan. You know, the bottom line to that is, you know, if we have a plan and we're working the plan and we are working with those that are returning, we have a safe community, hopefully, right? And that's really what it's all about. Successful reentry planning gives citizens, restored citizens, a chance for change, a chance to be seen differently than just another person coming out of the prisons. As you talk about the Office of Reentry, we have some goals, and these are goals that we kind of live by. Number one goal is to actually make sure we help develop a successful transition plan for everybody being released. And what does that truly mean? It means establishing relationships with organizations, services, and people that are in the community to identify services, to be able to connect to services prior to release. We're also there to ensure individuals are being prepared to return home. What do they truly need? Sit down and asking them, what do you truly need? Not hearing us tell them what we think they need, but what do they truly need? What are their fears? And we'll talk a little bit about some numbers, but you know, we're there also to equip individuals with some skills. You know, what do they truly need? Whether it be communication skills, whether it be coping skills, whether it be trauma related. We're also there to assist individuals in developing a family, restoring the family again. Whatever that means, a supportive support system for them. Everything we do in the Office of Reentry is about engaging the family of those that are incarcerated in the communities, because, you know, they've got to be in the same plan as the offender has coming out. If they're not on the same page, then it never ends up really well. We're also there to provide individuals with effective life coping skills. You know, give them some skills of being able to cope with whatever fears, whatever issues that they have, you know. And you'll find out with this population, they're doing a lot of time, so the world to them is what it was when they came in. So if you've done 15, 20 years, guess what? The world that they're stepping back into is what it was 15 years up here. We're also there at the bottom, the sixth and final one is to enhance awareness of the impact of their crime and incarceration. And that's kind of why, you know, they force, and I say this lovingly, people that aren't comfortable standing up and talking, to come out and talk to you, because it is about educating and bringing, creating some awareness. Let's talk about some numbers. As of November 4th, we have 2,582 veterans, and that's based upon our data exchange with the VRSS system. Does that seem to be a lot to you? We have a population of 43,193 offenders. That ends up being about 6% of our population are veterans. Does that seem high to you? It seems high to me. What does this population look like? Average time served is 131 months, 11 years. Average length of stay is 126 months, which is 10 and a half years. Out of the 2,000, 81% of that are down for a violent offense, which leaves 18.6% down for nonviolent. The average age is 53.2. That always kind of amazes me. But we do have a combination of Vietnam vets and some recent war veterans. 2.9% of the veterans are serving life or life without parole. So that paints a really good picture of the veterans that are coming out. The veterans are doing a lot of time. So there's a lot of things going on inside of our facilities that allow for a change, an opportunity for change, an opportunity to do to live their life. And for many of you that come into our facilities, oh, please tell me that's not my phone. And it is mine, and I apologize. No, that's Gina's. That's really Gina's. So, as you look at these numbers, they're pretty drastic, aren't they? We got a beautiful, minus the person who's sitting in it, me, who's got the COVID spread. Great message of two veterans that we interviewed. And we hope it kind of paints a picture for you. So now I'm going to turn it over to Maya Jenkins.
So when we got together and we said, okay, the three of us were talking, how can we get the best message across about what we do, what we see, what that picture really looks like for us going in on the inside. And we said, hey, what if we could interview two of the veterans that personally, both of these veterans are ones that I have worked with. We thought that's going to be the best idea to really show you what we see when we go into the facilities. So it took a lot of work, but I was able to convince Brian to be the one on video. I said, I'll do the coordination, but you have to be the one on video. He graciously agreed. So what you're going to see are two veterans that I worked with. Both of these veterans did a long time. I worked with both of them since, I think, about 2011 when I took the position. Both of them were seeing the parole board. So I worked with them going up to that parole board, and then I worked with them as they got denied and got an additional 2 years or more onto their sentence. Without further ado, I think we play.
Vince, good morning. Thank you for allowing us to spend some time with you and talk a little bit about your experiences. Let's talk a little bit about that time period after your service and prior to incarceration. Tell me a little bit about that.
My experiences after service, because of the violence that I witnessed in the service and the death of at least one service member by another service member, it caused me a lot of problems. I had an adjustment disorder. I developed PTSD. I turned to drugs and alcohol. I withdrew from family and friends. Securing employment, you were labeled as a non-vet because it was the period, and people wouldn't hire you because you were a veteran and you served during the Vietnam War. So that made it difficult, besides my issues. And my issues made it difficult to maintain a job for any period of time. I'd get one, and that drinking and using drugs would interfere with keeping one. You know, you couldn't keep a job and do that stupid stuff.
You know, the time you spent inside the department, what was it like being a veteran serving time?
When I entered the department, that was in 1995, they never asked you if you were a veteran. Nobody was concerned if you were a veteran at that time. It was years later that they started to, which I was glad to hear. But, you know, with PTSD and other issues, doing time was kind of difficult because you were stuck in a cell. And it was hard, but I developed a mindset that I wasn't going to let it break me down. I wasn't going to let it ruin my life. I chose to do positive things. I got into maintenance programs. I completed 2 apprenticeships, 2 4-year apprenticeships, as well as a 2-year tailoring apprenticeship. I got my associate's degree, and I got involved with the Vietnam Veterans of America. And within a year, I was elected to a board position, and since then, 1996 until 2020, I was either elected or appointed to a board position with the Vietnam Veterans of America. They started to come around to where veterans were important again. And, you know, they got a veterans block established in Grafton, and that was a good stepping stone. And we wind up getting good connections with the VA, you know, which helped guys prior to being released.
What has been, as you look at the release and your release, what has been effective for you? I mean, what exactly were your needs?
Well, the first need was housing. I mean, I was homeless. The most beneficial and helpful was Maya Jenkins getting me into the domiciliary. It was getting down to the last minute. Like I said, it was within a week of either nowhere to go or somewhere to go. And that's not a comfortable feeling. You know, your time's running out. Your 25 years, day for day, is running out. Okay, now it's time I can leave. I can be free, and you get nowhere to go. That's totally, like, it could have been really devastating, but I was not going to give up now. I mean, I made it this far. I can't give up now. So, you know, it was just a new struggle that I had to work through. While I was at domiciliary, I was accepted into a program at the VA hospital, Wade Park. And it's a community work therapy program. It's a veterans benefit. And I've been there since. It's almost a year now.
You know, as you look at your release and what you needed, what kind of gaps were there?
The biggest gaps, again, we got to go back to, it was the COVID, was the lack of staff that could help you be connected to places. You know, I mean, like I said, once in a while, you got to talk to somebody on the phone because staff wasn't coming in. It was, you know, we had exposure there. We were under lockdown, so being those circumstances made it extremely difficult to actually do the process correctly.
Let's talk a little bit about what kind of pressure that put you in upon release. I know you leaned heavily on the VA, but things that didn't really fall into the VA side of it. What did that mean to you?
I really had nowhere, you know, to reach out to. You know, it was the places I was trying to reach out to with the barriers that I have due to my incarceration caused a lot of difficulty, a lot of no's. So that they were closing doors that I was trying to get open before I could get them open, and that made it really difficult. The call places from being incarcerated, you know, it's not, you can't make those kind of calls. So I was having some friends of mine do it for me, and I had a couple initial things, and in the background check, you know, that wiped that process out. They said, no, you incarcerated for this or that, and we're not going to hire you. So jobs weren't lining up prior to release. Housing wasn't available, you know, so it was like, what's going to happen now?
You know, my next question is really about what would you do differently. You've answered a bunch of that already. But looking back, and if this was shown to the population inside, what kind of message would you be able to tell them?
I think it's important to get your education, to try to find a trade that they're offered through the facilities. I mean, a lot of them offer different kind of programs. Seek the help you need. You know, you got to get the help you need. You know, that's the only way I survived. I got to the point where I wasn't going to let it break me down. I stayed really busy, so coordinating, seeing a psychologist, I had to make sacrifices. You know, but I had to do them. You know, I wouldn't have been able to be the person I am today if I did not go through those programs. That's rewarding to somebody that's done a lot of time. It makes them feel human. Because when I went in, you were a number. You weren't even, your name didn't even, the name's out. We won 311483. That's you. Come on, let's go. Yeah. I'll never forget the number. You know, I always look back. You know, that's where I was. Look where I'm at. Look where I'm going. This is what I want to do.
Good morning, Ed. Thank you.
Morning, Brian.
Thank you for taking some time out to give us a little bit of your life perspective.
You know me, I'll do anything to help vets out.
That's what we figured that, so thank you. So, talk a little bit about your military career for us.
I honor my time in the service. I believe I did honorable service. I did faithful service, and I can't say I love it because time in combat is not something you really love, okay? But I think I did duty that brought respect and honor not only to my family, but to my country. I knew things were a little bit different because society did not want to accept us, okay? Right from the get-go of being discharged, actually right from the point that I got off the plane from returning from Vietnam, I seen the hostility that was shown by a lot of society towards Vietnam vets. We had trash thrown at us whenever we go somewhere. I've been on airplanes, I've been on trains, I've been on buses where people refused to sit next to me because I served in Vietnam. I learned not to advertise that I was a Vietnam vet. I went through many jobs. Some jobs only lasted 6 months, some jobs a year. In time, I found that the best job for me was a over-the-road long-haul trucker. Ended up getting my own tractor. Okay, I loved it. It's the quietness of being alone. I loved it. Okay, but the downfall was that you don't get rid of the night bears. They're still there. Okay, I developed self-medication by using marijuana, and because of the using marijuana, I ended up incarcerated in the state of Ohio. Did 28 years. Okay. I was released February of this year, and new to society, you might say. I mean, people don't understand 28 years, a lot changes in the world. A lot changes, okay? And because of that, there are things that I don't know other people know. Or I don't know what other people know, okay? My brother got me a smartphone. Damn thing is so much smarter than me. It's ridiculous. I can make a call and I can know how to receive a call, and that's about it. The only other thing I can do is TikTok, you know, but that's about it.
What was your experience like being a veteran, being incarcerated?
I think being a vet incarcerated is the best training for incarceration. Incarceration, you're expected to follow orders. As a vet, you're trained from day one to follow orders, okay? So in one sense, that eased a lot of transition for me. In another sense, it was a torture because a vet, what you're fighting for is freedom and liberties, okay? What do you not have incarcerated? You have no freedom, you have no liberties.
If you would talk a little bit about, as you got closer and you knew you were being released, what services did you connect with?
I went to the parole board 9 times, so I really never knew I was going to get released, okay? But I figured ahead of time I wanted to develop something that when the day came that I walked out, that I would have at least something in place, okay? I developed a rapport with the VA, okay, because of the fact that I filed benefits for guys. At first, there was a gentleman that represented us, and then we had a lady that came in. We were lucky. We had 2 very good people, 2 very good people. And I don't know if you want me to mention their names. I think they were our first one was Dave Charleston, okay? And he worked with me on veterans issues, and he even told the guys when he'd come once a month, you got a question, go ask Green. He probably knows more than I do by now. And then when Dave says he's leaving, we were all kind of worried, who are we going to get now? Because everybody loved Dave. And then we got a lady called Maya Jenkins. And I tell you what, we went from good to great, okay? We had questions that were maybe outside of her scope, but she got answers for us, okay? And those who wanted or knew they were going to be getting out had a way to access some of the information that the VA would have available for you.
Talk a little bit about the connection with the VA. What kind of comfort that gave you coming out?
I knew I'm going to need medical supplies for the rest of my life, so I made sure that my medical records, okay, by my final case manager, was sent to my VA representative, so there was no delay in getting the necessary medical supplies I would need. Okay, and my VA rep was Maya, and she was right on it. And matter of fact, she had medical supplies waiting at the halfway house for me when I was released. I mean, if you know what's going on and you get yourself involved into it because it is your life, no one else is going to step in and do it for you. You got to do it. And your VA rep is there to, if you go to them and say, this is what I need, how do I get it? They're going to help you get it. They're going to tell you what path to take, okay? What obstacles in the road you're going to face. Prepare yourself for it. Prepare yourself.
Let's talk a little bit about upon release, what kind of barriers, and what's been good, what's been bad.
Well, I think the bad part is that for me, I was incarcerated so long, and I was a little bit scared coming out. It's a whole different world. What I think was an obstacle for me is after 28 years, there is so much in society that changed. So much, okay? And the big thing is technology, okay? I never had a computer. I never had a cell phone, okay? At home, I had what they called a princess phone. Okay, I don't know if you remember that. And all of a sudden, my brother buys me this thing it's really thin, okay? And kind of square and everything, but I mean, it does everything. You not only make phone calls and get phone calls, I could be at my bunk and get a phone call, okay? I can be anywhere and make a phone call, okay? And if I got a question, this thing will give me the answer. I said, you're kidding me. One of my biggest obstacles to face right now in continuing my life is having a credit rating. Nobody wants to talk to you. Don't try to go and get a car. You want to rent an apartment? You know, they even want to know what your credit rating is so you'll be able to pay your monthly rent. For me, as a vet, I made sure that I had my connection with the VA. Okay, to me that was the most important. So I wanted those things that are the most important to me, that is going to help me survive and give me the best chances. Because you will hear in the prison system, most guys, if you don't prepare yourself, you'll be back in within 6 to 12 months. Okay? So my contact was the VA. Okay? And knowing that Maya was always there to help, whatever direction I needed information from, she helped. You're constantly faced with a new obstacle. And you've got to be fluid in your thinking that you can adjust to it, because it's not something you actually thought about in the past, because it's not something that you were dealing with. Yeah, they always had a bed for you, always had towels. And they always had toilet paper, always had food when you went to the chow hall. You're going to have obstacles. On a personal note, after coming out of the military, I've done all kinds of jobs, and I told you driving 18-wheelers was the best. I liked it, okay? Gave me privacy. I traveled the whole country, okay? And I will say that very few people understand vets and even care about vets. Yeah, Veterans Day comes, yip yip hooray, thanks for the vets. Okay, but you got your freedoms, you got your rights, you got your liberties 365 days of the year, not just one. Okay, where I live now in Ohio, in a suburb, this is a town that I don't go a day without at least 5, maybe 10 people come up to me and say, thank you for your service. I would say at least twice a month, I'll sit in a restaurant and have a meal. I'll ask for the check. And I'm told there is no check. Somebody else paid your check. That means a lot. That means a lot.
Well, thank you. Good job.
So I know that was a little long. Is this still on? But let me tell you, so the second veteran that was focused, that is 100%
That's
service-connected
good morning. Thank you.
veteran. His interview, Brian, it was over an hour just with him. He wanted to talk. And I wish we had the time that we could have showed the whole thing. It was just so chock full. And like I said, I've known him for years. We've worked together a long time. The insight that he has being a veteran that was released from prison was very, very eye-opening. I was off camera the whole time. That's probably why they said all the good things. But I walked away from that with a new perspective of different things I want to focus on personally in the next couple of years. You heard both veterans talk about technology. I've worked with them through that. Mr. Green in the beginning, I would call him, but he couldn't answer because he didn't know how. So just working through challenges like that. But it was an honor to actually be with them and help coordinate those videos. I think Gina's up now.
We're not leaving me alone, right? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what we actually do for incarcerated veterans and before they're released and after they're released. The first thing that we do, which seems kind of like a no-brainer, is really work on developing trust and rapport. It seems a little more difficult with this population than maybe some other ones. They might have a lot of distrust in the VA. They might have distrust in the military, and that's transposed to the VA, or just systems in general. So a lot of what we do to try to counteract that is pretty simple, which is do what we say we're going to do. If we say, I'm going to send you this form in the mail, we do that. If someone writes us a letter, we respond to every letter. We often get feedback saying, like, no one but you returns my letters. And so it means a lot to them just that we follow through with the promises that we make.
Right, and it's those little things, that takes us, 5 minutes out of your day. Sometimes their letters aren't even asking for anything in particular. They're just looking for that connection, that support. And I hear that all the time. You're the only person. I sent letters out to all these community agencies. You're the only person that ever replied to one of my letters. So that kind of starts to develop that, they can trust us.
Sometimes we get letters from things that have nothing to do with the VA, asking questions just because they know that we'll respond, and they're questions about the military or questions about just Social Security, yes. Lots of different questions. And so we frequently respond to letters because outside of actually going and doing visits, that's our main form of communication with most people. We also we act as subject matter experts for not only the Veterans Health Administration, but the Veterans Benefits Administration. We technically work for the Veterans Health Administration. A lot of people don't know, who don't work at the VA, that those are very different systems, but we are the only people from the VA that goes into the prisons. And so we have to kind of know it all, and if we don't know it, we've got to find out. And so
learn how to fake it really well. But that is one of the biggest challenges, because it is just us, and we go in, we don't have a computer, we don't have a phone, it's literally us with our notebooks of papers, and we are the VA. They look at us as the whole VA system, whether it's benefits, compensation, health care, doctors, physical therapists. They always want to show us their wounds. I don't need to see that, but that is true. But so that really puts a lot of pressure, but if we stand up and we do what we say we're going to do, that instills that trust in the VA. And as time goes by, they start to say, well, maybe I can trust the VA. Yeah, Ms. Jenkins, maybe I will go to the VA for that appointment you set up for me. So that's kind of one of our biggest goals.
Yeah. So a lot of what we do when we go into a prison, now during COVID, everything ground to a halt, right? We weren't allowed to go into prisons. We did a lot of, initially a lot of interaction through letters, which, can you imagine someone sending you a letter and saying, please tell me everything that you need, all of your personal information, and we've never met, you don't know who I am. Like, I got a lot of people who did not respond to my letters, understandably so. And so we'll go in and we do these screening assessments, and we have about 10 to 15 minutes to figure out what are your needs going to be when you get out. What's your housing plan? What's your income plan? What kind of health care needs are you going to have? Mental health, substance abuse, employment needs. family support, technology needs. That's a big one that's really been highlighted with COVID. And benefits. So this is where I had to learn when I started this job, the VBA side of the house of how to help people apply for benefits, who's eligible for what kind of benefits, who's eligible for what kind of VA care, because not every veteran is eligible for VA care. It could be they didn't have enough time in service, they had a bad discharge from the military. There's lots of different reasons why someone might not be eligible for full VA care. So then we have to explain, you might not be eligible for this, but you could be eligible for, there's a couple housing programs that you might be eligible for, even if you're not eligible for, full health care. Benefits is a big question, especially when someone is initially incarcerated, because if you were getting financial benefits from the VBA, depending on the benefit, it might be stopped or it might be reduced. And oftentimes the VA and they don't communicate very well, so someone might be incarcerated for a while getting their full benefit, not knowing that it was supposed to be reduced, and thus incurring a huge debt that they then have to pay back when they get out. So we have to work with them on debt management, explaining that situation, and how to restart your benefits when you get out when you are released from prison. Anything else you want to say about that? So that's money is a big question. Housing is probably the number one question. Does the VA have a place that I can live when I get out of here? And the answer is maybe, but it's pretty difficult. We often refer to the halfway house system for that. And then we have more permanent housing programs that I know are going to be talked about this afternoon that people can apply for once they're out of prison. Let's see. So when someone's getting ready to be released, either if they have like a definite release date or they're approved by the parole board, a lot of what we do is from that initial assessment, we'll link them with appointments. I try to make appointments for people as soon as they're released to help with that continuity of care. Sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes clinics don't want to give an appointment until they talk to the veteran. And I said, well, you can't because they're incarcerated right now. And so that can be a barrier for our system. So we try the best that we can to link people with primary care, mental health, substance abuse, especially those people like the veteran mentioned who have medications that need to be refilled. Usually you only get a 2-week supply when you get out. And so we need to get those appointments pretty quickly for people. And that's one of the goals that we have. And then we also provide post-release case management. So it's not just the pre-release, the reentry planning, but I always say, I am your contact. If you're having problems when you get out and you can't solve them yourself with something related to the VA, give me a call and I will help work on that for you, whether that's getting into the doctor, getting your benefits straightened out. We've worked on developing good relationships with staff who work at the Veterans Benefits Administration so we can get some inside info and help people around the barriers that they might receive. The biggest barrier that I've noticed that's been mentioned is the technology gap, right? So we are very blessed that we have these cell phones that we can give people since we're part of the homeless programs. We can give people, so if they need to make a video appointment, they can click and go to their video appointment. But the problem is, like, I had a veteran in February who got out after 38 years. He was incarcerated in 1983, I believe. And I give him this like Samsung Galaxy something or other. And I don't know what this is, Gina. He's like, he couldn't figure out how to set up his voicemail. I tried to tell him, get with your grandson. He can help you figure this out. But it's still a difficulty. He finally did learn how to answer the phone. Yes, I don't think he knows how to check his voicemail still. But it's a big barrier is that gap of just adjusting, learning 40 years of things that we've kind of gradually learned along the way that they just haven't had the opportunity for that.
Well, and it's not only that, it's other things in society that you wouldn't think of. if you haven't been incarcerated for 20, 30 years. I actually had the opportunity to pick up some guys that were just releasing after 30 years of incarceration. I was taking him to one of our housing programs. Well, he gets in my car. Well, guess what? He doesn't know how to put on his seatbelt. Because when he went to prison, all the seatbelts were down here, right? There's nothing up here. So I have to show them how to put on a seatbelt. So when you're working with this population, I guess why I'm telling you this, patience, patience, patience. Because for us, it's easy. We know how to get gas at a gas pump. They don't. So just walking through the world with them now can be challenging.
Yeah, the veteran I was just talking about, he called me one day. He goes, Gina, I went to Walmart. Have you been to a Walmart? They have everything. I'm like, yes, I'm familiar. He's like, stores weren't like that before. I'm like, I wouldn't have thought about that, that it's a completely different world. And people it's funny, the little things that mean so much. So yesterday, one of my recently released veterans contacted me and said, Gina, I know you got me these clothes, because we have relationships with donations that we can get clothes and hygiene items and stuff like that. And he said, but these pants won't stay up. So I got him a belt from our volunteer, and I dropped off the belt, and this morning I woke up to this message, thank you so much, that means everything that you got me this belt. And it's very humbling what's important to people, right? It's like, correct. Yeah. Let's see. So the biggest barrier for us is also a technology barrier. So the VA has this system where we can do video appointments. However, in ODRC, there's some firewall issue where they can't get our appointments. So we still can't do video conferencing. We were given these iPads, but that didn't work out. There were concerns about security issues with the iPads. So we would still love to find a way, technology-wise, to do video conferences, directly with inmates. Or doing JPay or Kite, which is kind of like an email system, where we could just, instead of sending these old-fashioned paper letters, directly contact the veterans. That would be very helpful for us. Is there anything else I'm missing?
Nope, that's the main.
All right, so Brian, we have our contact information up here. Are there any questions? People. Yes.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but I really don't know how to answer that, but I can tell you that our director is constantly looking at ways of getting people back into the communities. We just recently, over with the COVID, we found out that all the beds that we pay for at halfway houses were going unused. So we opened those beds up to anybody that was releasing from our facility that didn't have a place to go, which is a big change for us. Those beds are always designated just for people coming out on supervision. So anybody that was coming out, period, that didn't have a place to go, they had a place to go, which is in one of the halfway houses, which meant that they had access to all the services that the halfway house provided. So there's things that we're working on, but I can't tell you what's down the road as far as budget and other things. So I apologize for not having that answer. So.
Anything else? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.